Live?
Okay.
Hi, okay. Hey, thank you so much for having me on your show again. This is so exciting.
Yeah, and welcome. If anybody didn't hear Chris Shelton on 52 Weeks, his episode's amazing. First, I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce yourself and let everyone know Qigong and what it is that you do, and you're a master and amazing.
Yeah, so once again, my name is Chris Shelton, and I'm a curative Qigong master, like she said, a specialist. And what I do is I see patients in clinic. It's a very old style classical Chinese medicine that most people haven't heard of. Reason why we're here in Los Angeles is to help to spread it more to the mainstream through television and movies. And there's two aspects of Qigong. There's the self-cultivation part of it, where we teach practices. I have a YouTube channel. On my YouTube channel, we have these very gentle, simple to do Qigong practices that helps with your mental emotional state, because in Chinese medicine, the leading cause of disease and death is actually emotional trauma. And when those emotions get stuck into a specific organ of the body, that manifests as disease. And so what we do is we help to educate people and show people that, you know what, there are some ancient practices that you could do, and it's not some kind of weird belief structure. And believe it or not, you'll help to transform those emotional traumas and improve your overall well-being.
Yeah, and I know that you help people relieve stress and reduce pain. And how does it do that?
So like I said, in the clinical practice, so there's two avenues of Qigong. And Qigong is, some people say, well, what is Qigong? Well, first of all, Qi is the life force energy that emanates through all things. Gong is the skill for which we harness, in this case, the energy of our body, of our environment, whatever, our food that we eat, in order to improve our well-being. So if you ever hear the term Gong Fu, that actually means skill of the fist. So what we're doing here with Qigong is that in the when we teach these practices, is that we're harnessing this life force energy so that way a person can improve themselves. Now, in the clinical setting, what happens is that we work with all types of diseases and chronic pain issues, including depression and anxiety disorders. We have a very high success rate from the San Francisco Bay Area originally. And I was going back and forth between here and LA because some of our high profile clients kept on pulling me down here. And then finally we said, okay, we'll make the move. And and so what happened was that when a patient comes into clinic, what we do is that we help to understand the underlying root of the dysfunction. So yes, we'll take the doctor's notes, we'll take the lab results. Those are all relevant to give us a pointer, but between the Q&A and other diagnostic systems that we have, then what happens is that we come up with a strategy. And when we come up with that strategy, it's how to balance out these internal organs, because when these organs are out of balance, that's what shows up as disease. And a lot of people don't realize that. Like, a lot of people don't realize that different emotions attack different organs of the body.
I know you said a lot of the stuff will show up on somebody's tongue that you could
Oh
see
yes,
that.
your tongue will tell us exactly what's going on within the organ systems right now. It also will tell us some older patterns. But what's very fascinating is I actually diagnose also by reading the face. So every feature on your face, every line means something to me. So I don't know if you've ever taken an Enneagram before, which is a personality quiz. So yes, we get to know what your personality is, but on a deeper level, we get to know what kind of traumas are still stuck inside the body, what organs are they affecting, and what potential diseases are lying down the road. That's a cool thing.
So, for somebody who's listening, are there things that they could do to heal themselves now or to know? And so Chris is nodding his head for anybody who's just listening. So yeah, okay. So let us know.
Yes.
What can we do?
So the first thing I would do is that, number one, we have something called the Qi Club, and it's spelled Qi. That's how you spell Qi. The Qi Club, a person could join live. It's on Zoom Monday through Thursday from 8 to 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and there's a live half-hour class that we teach, and we have people all around the world that join. And in those practices, in that half-hour class, as I'm teaching the specific movements, I'm helping to guide and facilitate the students or the participants into, okay, well, let's say, for example, we want to focus on our liver, because our liver is affected by anger and resentment and old anger. And when that's held on to for a long period of time, it turns up as depression, anxiety disorders, any type of bowel disorders like colitis and Crohn's disease. So there's that method, but also too, if a person wants to come and say, well, let's just take a look at what Chris is offering, then on my YouTube channels, go to at Chris Shelton Qigong. So again, it's spelled QI.
It's on the thing. Yeah, we've got all the links on here. Yeah.
So anyways, on there I have, number one, we release a video almost every week on some health related topic and how to fix it yourself. And then number two, I have what is called as the 30 days of Qigong on that YouTube channel. So it's like you're taking 30 weeks with me at my studio in San Jose. Each day I talk about the practice, why you're doing it according to Chinese medicine, and each day builds on top of the next practice. The cool thing about that too is it corresponds with my first book, Qigong for Self-Refinement. And so the whole idea here is for self-empowerment. How can you be a better version of yourself? How can you improve your health and your vitality and live the life that God designed all of us to live? We all have this opportunity with a little bit of application to live the utmost life possible.
Yeah, and for anybody who hasn't done this, they're really fun too. I've done some of these YouTubes and the classes, and I just really enjoyed it. So before I interviewed you, and anyway, okay. So I've been dying to ask you this question. I have a friend. I saw he posted on LinkedIn that his Apple Watch told him his heart rate was elevated, and so he went to the emergency room, of course, because he was scared. And so have you heard about other people? And I've heard other people talk about my Apple Watch says my heart rate's really elevated. So I would just do breathe. So go ahead. So tell me.
What's really funny about that is that last night on Instagram and on YouTube Shorts, I uploaded a short little video on how to tell by looking at your face if you have a potential for high or low blood pressure or heart disease. Okay, so that's number one. But a very simple practice that your friend could do, and anybody could do this, is called the dry cry or the heart sound. So each of the 5 major organs of the body all have a different emotion that attacks it, but also has a healing sound, a healing color that affects it in a positive way, and also certain foods that will positively affect it. So if he's in that position again, and he's trying to calm his heart down, what you do is you have him pull the breath into the heart and imagine a pink cloud filling up into the heart. And even if he doesn't know what's triggering his high heart rate, maybe he could just focus on the heart rate itself. Then what he does is he is going to inhale, pull that pink cloud in, and then as he exhales, we're going to imagine a dark cloud leaving the body. Now, when he exhales, though, I want him to make the sound of ha, like laughing, like ha 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 ha, because actually the negative emotion of the heart, well, the heart is the emperor, empress of the entire body, but the heart will dictate how much of emotion will be expressed or suppressed. And believe it or not, you could actually die of a heart attack from laughing too hard. And so the silly thing is that when we have a laughing fit at something, what is the first thing that we all do? Right? Because your heart is trying to regain balance again. If you lost a loved one, your dog ran away or had to be put to sleep, what happens? A person will yawn a lot, or they will sigh a lot because the heart is trying to release us. So all we're doing is that we're already tapping into the body's natural mechanism to release it. And we're just making it more mindful because now we're connecting to the heart. We're imagining the pink or red color filling up into the heart. And we're doing the healing sound. And do this for like 10 or 15 minutes. Now, obviously, if you're in public and you feel something come up, you're not going to want to do it audibly. I mean, most of us anyways. I still would. But anyways.
You're a master. You can. Yeah, go ahead.
You do it underneath your breath. And you do that over and over again. And nobody will know what you're doing. But instead of you suppressing it, which creates more of the same dysfunction, you actually will release it and start to regain balance in your life. And in particular, what we're talking about right now is the heart.
Oh, that's so good. Are there other colors related that we should know about related to other parts of our body?
Yeah. So, for example, like I was saying, the color green is associated with the liver and gallbladder because it houses the negative emotions of anger, hate, frustration, rage, resentment, old anger. When it's turned inward for a long period of time, it turns into depression. When we have grief.
So wait, okay. So do we breathe in or breathe out green, or what?
Okay, so you actually would breathe into the liver. We would focus on the issue, like whether it's past or present. And even And I see this a lot with patients where they'll say, oh, I dealt with that years ago, like I don't harbor it around, but yet they still have colitis, or they have these skin eruptions all over their, or lesions all over their body. I'm like, well, your body's screaming at you that it's still in there. So let's tap into something that you think that you've worked through. Feel it. Who's involved? What's involved? As you inhale, pull that green cloud into the liver. Then as you exhale, making the shoo sound. Shoo. And you're focusing on that circumstance leaving, all right? Leaving the body. And you do that over and over again. Now, if you have grief or loss or shame, guilt, that weakens your lungs. And we'll see it a lot of times where somebody has lost a loved one and all of a sudden develop an unproductive dry cough. The unproductive dry cough is not a sudden onset of asthma. What it is that the grief is stuck. So in that case, we would imagine a white cloud filling up into the lungs. We would focus on the circumstance and feel it, who it was, what was involved. And then as we exhale, making the sound, imagine that leaving from the lungs. And again, doing it over and over again. If you tend to worry a lot, you get stuck in your head a lot, that will weaken your spleen and your pancreas. And this will cause all kinds of diseases like prolapses. That's when the organs fall out of place. It'll cause diseases like blood-induced diseases. There'll be a contributing factor for that. So you focus on what is making you worried. Is it financial? Is it a person? Is it an upcoming meeting or talk? Focus on that. Pull a yellow cloud into the left side of the body underneath the rib cage. And then feel that emotion, feel that circumstance, have the yellow cloud fill up into the spleen. Then as you exhale, making the whoo sound. Ooh. And doing that over and over.
Okay, I have a question. When you said, and if you're in public, you just imagine yourself making the sound, or?
Underneath your breath.
Okay, got it.
Right. So it's not just imagining it, it's also making the sound vibration, which correlates to it as well, too. And then the last organ will be the kidneys. Now, the kidneys are affected by fear and shock. Now, what is shock? Now, shock could be surviving a severe illness, like a severe flu bug or cancer, chemo, car accident, but also it's abuse or any type of trauma, something you've seen or witnessed that's very shocking to you. That will weaken your kidney network, and the healing sound is fu. So you imagine a blue cloud filling up into the kidneys. And then as you exhale, imagine that circumstance making the fu sound. Fu. And you do this over and over again. And as goofy as it may seem, this stuff has been around for thousands of years. And if you think about it, like, for example, your spleen and your pancreas and your stomach, if you have an upset stomach, what do? Right? So you're already tapping into that sound. Right? You're already tapping into it. Just be more specific now, number one. Number two, different than normal conventional therapy, where, and this is from my own experience, I don't know about anybody else, but I know years ago when I was going through certain types of therapy, I would go in and they'd pick off the scab. And when I left, I felt worse. I was like, oh my gosh, they dug this stuff up, but it didn't have a tool for me to process it. I'm asking you to dig up these old wounds, feel them, see them, and get the environment back as much as possible. So we're picking off the scab, but by focusing on the specific organ for whatever that emotion is, the specific color, the specific healing sound, that's how you release the vibration inside the body. That's how you increase the organ function inside the body. And that's how you get to live 120 years, possibly.
Healthy and happy with vitality.
Yeah, not dying a painful death, miserable death. That's not what life is about. It's being able to have a graceful, transition into that next phase, right? And not suffering till the day you die.
Yeah, no, that's great. Okay, so then what about people that are trying to manifest something? There are things they're working towards, their dreams and so on.
So I'm a big believer in quantum mechanics and quantum physics. What's funny is that my wife's parents have their own high-tech company in San Jose. They're both PhD physicists. They actually have their own mathematical equation named after them in Wikipedia. So talking about quantum physics. So I believe that, source, God, whatever you want to call it for yourself, that's the great thing, is that it gives us free will. So free will, we could do in a negative direction or in a positive. So if you want to create something in your life, like I want to create more abundance inside my life, what I do is that I don't focus on, I choose to co-create with the universe that I get rid of all my bills, right? I want to change that. I want to say I choose to co-create with the universe or God that I have abundancy flowing in and around me, and that I have this successful, healthy life. And so you want to say, when you look at yourself in the mirror, what it is that you want to bring into fruition. You don't want to say the negative. For example, I used to be a very angry, controlling person. And if I was to say in the mirror, I choose to co-create with God that I'm no longer angry, then what would happen is that I become more angry, right?
Yeah.
I would say, well, what's the opposite of being angry and controlling? And for me, it was being more loving and compassionate. So I'd say I choose to co-create that I am, not I will be, I am more loving and compassionate. And guess what? It starts to show up in your life. And by looking at yourself in the mirror is more powerful. And actually, when you connect to yourself in the mirror, if you look into your left eye, because they say that the left eye connects to the soul of the body. If you connect to the left eye, then that's even more powerful. And all of us, I don't think there's very many of us out there that don't already talk to ourselves in our head. We have this hamster wheel going, right? Going. So we're already talking to ourselves in our head. But when you actually look at yourself in the mirror and you say what it is that you want to manifest, or what you already have, like you really believe like you already have it in your life. That's the other thing too, is that you don't want to like, it will happen, or I will do this. Like, no, you've already done it. And all you're doing is you're doing the footsteps to catch you up to that time-space reality.
Yeah, definitely. It's that I'm so grateful and thankful that I have an abundant life. And I was taught to say them out loud, and I'd feel like an SNL skit, even though I was living alone at the time. I feel like looking around, like, who's watching me? And nobody's watching, and nobody's paying attention. Yeah, like even if people were around. Yeah, the left eye I've never heard before. That's new for me. That was interesting.
Yeah, because did you know in face reading that the left side of your face is what we show or what we feel on the inside, and the right side of the person's face is what they show to the world? That's why a lot of times people's left and right sides of their face do not line up. I mean, how many times have you seen somebody's eyebrow or one eye sag lower than the other? Yeah, it's because of what's going on the inside differs from what's going on the outside. There's a discord.
But that's the logical side. That seems backwards to me.
Yeah. So they say it's the logical, analytical side, right? But in face reading, it's really how we think. It's how we think, and we don't necessarily say what we think. I mean, how many times has somebody done something to you, and you think about saying something and you don't, right? You just shove it down. All right, that's that left side. And we could tell things like, especially if a person's eyes are very small or squinty, especially if the left eye is smaller, that means that person does not trust. They're very critical of other people, and they're critical of themselves. So you want to change that. What you do is that you learn to love yourself and love others, and grant people grace, and grant yourself grace. And guess what? Your eyes will actually change size.
Oh, that's really good. Okay, what else can you read in somebody's face?
Well, gosh, we could tell all kinds of diseases. So
no, I meant personality traits. So that somebody, because with all the Zooming and everything these days, I mean, somebody, how do we know whether to trust somebody just looking at a face?
Okay, so you could tell if somebody has a propensity to lie a lot is if when their mouth is closed, if the line where the lips meet is wavy or crooked. That means that person will tend to lie a lot or tend to exaggerate the truth. And what's interesting is that I just have, and we sometimes refuse to see it. Like we know that subconsciously that maybe one of our close friends has this trait, right? But you just don't want to believe it. And this happened to me over the last couple of months. A very close friend of mine down here, it has that line, like no, and then it actually finally showed up. The other thing too, have you ever seen anybody when they're on their phone or they're reading a book and their mouth is open like this, like they're working on the phone? That means when the person's mouth is open that you can't tell them any secrets, because all those secrets will fall out of their mouth.
Oh, you said that on the podcast. I'd forgotten that. Now that you're saying that, I'm like, oh yeah, that's so good. Okay. Right? So now don't tell them anything. I know exactly who. Yeah, I know exactly who to watch when they're reading a book. Yeah.
These lines on the outside of the eyes here. Now there's different types of lines, but if you have 3 lines that go out, that means that the person likes to flirt a lot. So if you want to play around with somebody and you see those lines.
That's so funny. That's
But
great.
the other side too is these lines right here on the cross of the forehead here. If you've ever seen anybody that the lines don't connect, they have all these like little lines but they don't connect.
Mm-hmm.
If you talk to them, those people are the ones that will say, gosh, why do I keep on getting the same boyfriend or girlfriend that keeps on treating me so badly? Because what it means is that they're not learning from their life experiences. So think about it. When we see these lines, so some lines we want to show, I know, especially here in LA, we want Botox and those kinds of things to cover up our lines. But some lines we want to see, like these ones here, means that the person has learned from their life experiences.
Gosh, let's hope.
Because if you think about it, I have to make that expression. It's like, holy cow. I mean, look, so there's this connection, right? There's this actual connection between, okay, well, I'm not going to do that again, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also too, how the ears sit. Okay, so you see how my ears right close to the side of my head?
Yeah.
That means that I listen very well, and I do. When I'm talking to somebody or whatever, I'm very engaged with them. So that's why I think I have such great success in clinic, is because I'm very engaged with the clients. But if you have people with ears that stick out like this, like Dumbo, that means that they hear only what they want to hear. So no matter what you try to tell them, they're going to say, if it doesn't apply to their ego, their, whatever, then.
So this will be great for me with defense counsel. I'll look for the people with the Dumbo ears and know I'm going to win. They won't listen to the jury. They're not going to listen to anybody. They'll just be all about themselves.
Yeah. So going back to that, what's interesting is that I teach classes in this face reading, and unfortunately, it's a lost art in the school of acupuncture. The universities are not teaching this stuff anymore, and it's a shame because it's so valuable. You know who takes a lot of my classes are attorneys, CEOs, or like HR people, because they want to, when they are hiring somebody, because the face doesn't lie. Whenever we meet somebody, we always put our best foot forward. And eventually, if there's a feature there that doesn't agree with you, or that you say like, oh, that's not that good, then what will happen is eventually that will show itself at some point. So you could tell, like on the jury, for example, you could tell if they have mommy issues. You could tell if they have daddy issues.
How?
Huh?
How can you tell?
The space between the eyebrows. You could tell that. So the distance between the eyebrows will tell you which one had more of an influence. So like for yourself, it looks like your dad had a little bit more of an influence than the mom. And so closer the eyebrows are together, then it actually will show that, no, the mother actually had more. But also too, then those lines that come up like this in between the eyebrows, this will also tell us whether they have made peace with the masculine energy. Because, a woman, even though it's considered feminine, can definitely hold masculine energy and vice versa, right?
Sure.
So you will tell if they still hold on to that old anger or resentment towards a male or female figure in their life. And depending on what your case is, this is what's going to tell you whether or not they're going to be beneficial or harmful to you and you presenting your case.
So how can HR professionals, how will it help them?
Well,
since this is on LinkedIn. This is on LinkedIn also, and there's so many people in HR.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. So for HR, for example, let's say if you're hiring somebody for accounting, you could actually tell how well by looking at the size of their nose, how wide their nose is, how well they are at investing. You get to actually look at the size of the nostrils and see
what is that? How does that reflect on their job or who they are? How wide their nose is or any of that?
So if there's so for example, if somebody has big nostrils, like I have big nostrils, and that means that the person gives so much of their energy and their money. My wife always gives me a bad time because I tip really well. Like if the service is good, I tip really well. It's like, I'll make it back, and so if you're a company like that, then you don't want necessarily somebody that's going to just be giving out the money, right? You want somebody that's going to be a little bit more conservative and be wiser on how they're going to invest and what accounts they're going to invest that cash flow into. So that's how you would utilize it. You can tell by the size of the nose too in HR how or how powerful a person is, how much energy do they have, like, so if you have somebody with a very, very large, thick, fleshy nose, those people, and there's other features on the face that can enhance it or take it or decrease its trait, but that nose by itself is a very powerful person. And so if you're the CEO or whatever, and you have this person underneath you, they're going to challenge you. So your HR department is going to say, well, would this person necessarily be good? Knowing, if you know what the president or CEO, CFO of the company is and what their personalities are like, would this person be good, or will they eventually just end up clashing heads because they're so stubborn? They have so much, because that person should actually be in the place of power. I mean, obviously they have to have the skill set and the mindset. So just because you have that size nose doesn't necessarily mean that you have the skill set or the mindset. But generally speaking, someone with that size of nose, they should be in that position.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, this is so fun. So I will have links for everything of Chris's. They're all listed below, and everything of is on our website at 52weeksofhope.com, which is right listed there. But this is so great. Anything else that you want to get across about leaving your own pains or being your own inner healer?
Yeah, what's funny is that my new movie that's coming out this year is called the Healer's Journey, and will be hitting the film festivals. But so yes, you have the power contained within yourself to take control over your own healthcare, and it doesn't have to cost you a lot of money. It's utilizing these simple practices that have been around for thousands of years. Because the more aware that you become of your body, your environment, then what happens is the more that you're able to control how that shows up. And to me, I believe that everything is changeable, and I believe that even if you've had a chronic back issue for 10 years or migraines for 15 years, I believe that stuff, because I've seen it in clinic, I've seen thousands of patients in the last 22 years I've been in clinical practice, and I've seen it transform more than once. And the cool thing is that I could teach people how to do this for themselves.
Oh, that's so great. This was so fun. It's so good to see you again.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for having me on again. I love your personality. You have such a great, uplifting, sparkly personality. So thank you. This is a lot of fun. And I love helping to educate people, because really it's about self-empowerment. How can we give people their power back, right? Give people the power that they actually have. That's what this is all about.
Yeah, get in line with what it is you really want to do and get rid of all that muck. Yeah.